I'm here in Monterrey, Mexico with my newest business partner, Brenda Belmares.
Hi. Yeah, super happy to be here.
So, Brenda, who are you?
Who am I? I'm a natural connector. I love connecting people and I love to be able to bring value to the people I know and to unite companies and people to create even bigger things.
So, I met Brenda about 3 years ago at Inc. Monterrey. Inc. Monterrey is kind of the South by Southwest of Monterrey, Mexico. Big festival. It's been happening this week. They do it the week right after South by Southwest. And part of what Brenda has been doing is something called Speedy Connections. And it looks very similar to the trust network that I do. What's Speedy Connection?
What we do is we try to ask detonating questions in which people will interact and start gaining a bit of insight into one another. And by that, generating a bit of trust and starting to speed the connection part among the people.
Yeah, and so part of what we've been doing is so on the 14th of March back in Austin, we did a Global Connections event there.
Yeah.
Had a number of people there. We just did a Global Connections event here in Monterey yesterday on the 18th, and so had even more people there. And
Yeah.
part of the idea is that innovation at its most fundamental level is creating connections among people. And we saw all sorts of interesting connections. Like one of the things that happened to the first session in Austin was this one researcher who'd flown into Austin from Brazil was working with patients that had just had stroke. But what was real exciting, right? He met all the people he needed to meet right there at the table within the first 3 minutes of the exercise.
Yeah, that was synchronicity at its best, I think.
And a lot of times you can create that. And so we're uniting Austin and Monterey. We're going to do even more. And it's kind of an exciting moment, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I just think that a lot of very interesting things are about to happen this year.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
quite interesting about the synchronicity that's been happening. We'll tell you more about that as it comes. I'll be carrying this work to Trento, Italy on the 2nd of April. And then we've already gotten confirmation that we'll be doing this before the end of April in Phoenix, Arizona. I think it's going to be the 23rd of April. It's a little crazy about everything that's happening so quickly. What we want to do now is there's all this action, but what's the theory behind why we think this is important in this moment right now? So, all about trust and care. So, why is trust an engine?
I think it's the most basic and the most important thing that we need to establish among people in order for other things to happen. I believe that the best way to gain another person's trust is by how can I help you? How can I add value to your life? So that'll be a great way to start a conversation with someone, like bringing the best of you to reach out and help somebody else. Of course, there's transactions going on and people might be okay with that. But we think that the best way of generating business, like if you're already taking the time to meet someone, why don't you do it like the right way from the beginning and start by generating a base of trust so that it's not only a transaction, but so that it can be something that will continue throughout time. And maybe instead of just doing one transactional business with this person, you'll start something bigger or maybe partner up and do something else, or just like what happened with me and
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
meeting 3 years ago and then
Yeah.
starting a conversation. She said, "Yeah, trust," and it's an interesting thing about it unfolded. Um, the thing that I would actually say about this, to take a little bit of a side note, to the ecosystem leaders that are investing money into networking events, right? The problem with a lot of the networking events that are out there is you're not building trust through the event. Some I have a drink, you have a drink, and we end up talking about the weather. Now, the weather here in Monterrey, Mexico, is absolutely beautiful. As you can tell, it's a little windy outside, but us talking about the weather is not necessarily going to build any kind of relationship. Why?
Yeah,
Why?
definitely.
Like, what do you think about that?
I agree with you. Sometimes people get confused, and especially here in Monterrey, it's funny for me because people say, oh, we're having a networking event. And what they mean is like, we'll gather people in some room and we'll give them alcohol and let them fix the world by themselves, right? Which is not the best way to really connect with people. You just don't want to network. You want to strategically connect with people in order to create something bigger, in order to add value, in order to be memorable.
Yeah, I mean, there's something about that both of us have gotten to see over the years about actually putting people together in a very thoughtful way. And there's a way of getting more out of the interaction in a short period of time without it being about, it's not about the alcohol. It's not about the music. It's not about the venue, but it is about creating something between two people.
Yeah, definitely. It's always been about the people. So I think that with when you're connecting with people, what matters is the sort of conversations that are taking place in that space, and the kind of things or value that everybody brings to the table.
And that's why there's like this relationship between trust and care. Part of what I've been talking about is I think we're entering into a period of time of what's going to be called the care economy, where people are really starting to say, okay, let's, you know, in all the negative things that happen right now, right? There's something that's emerging. You see it too, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're starting to get it, like finally, and we're starting to pay close attention to the people, to the intentions, to the what are we creating together, no?
Yeah. Can you scale that though? What do you think? Like, can you scale care without trust or trust without care?
I don't think so. I think they go hand in hand. In order for you to trust someone, you need to be able to, in some extent, to care for the person or for the project. And at the same time, it need there needs to be reciprocity. I think that that person needs to also feel trust towards you and care in some matter or form, to care about you too. What do
When
you think?
and part of my hypothesis, and one that we both tossed around, is that part of the thing about entrepreneurs specifically, the ones that are really driving impact for their businesses, there's usually some expression of care in that.
Yeah, definitely. There's been like from a certain, I don't know, like maybe perhaps I would say like the last 10 years, maybe there's been this shift in which perhaps before we were very focused on let's generate money and let's focus on the thing. I think now we're focusing more on what are what is our legacy or what are we leaving behind or how is this showing that we care for one another, no?
Yeah, there's more of a depth about it.
Yeah.
So part of what we want to look at is, you know, I want to keep on comparing back to this idea of networking. Networking, like the networking event. I'm going to the networking event where there's really it's just this transactional feel. What is you think is like the fundamental problem with those type of events and that type of interaction?
I think that when you go to these kind of events, I think you don't become memorable. I think it's just a mere transaction where here's my card, give me your card, and maybe that card will be tossed away to the trash can in 3 days. Whether as if we start a conversation, if we ask interesting questions, if we take the time to really listen to the other person, we get information, we start maybe sharing vulnerable things, and that on one way or another makes us like connect with one another on a different level, I think.
Yeah, when and certainly there are environments out there, there are cultures out there that are very transactional,
Yeah.
and perhaps they're very financially successful. But if we look over the long term, right, it's not a very happy place to be.
No, I wouldn't say it is. And it's a very shallow place to be because I'll look you up when I need you and if I need you and I'll use you and then I'll toss you.
Yeah.
And that's not nice. When you're intentional and you're trying to connect with one another, you get to see all these rainbow of opportunities, right? That you're giving yourself the opportunity to see or to think about in the near future.
Yeah, especially the over the long term on the relationship, right? In
Yeah.
my case, I lived in Silicon Valley. I lived in Austin. I lived in Guadalajara, Mexico. One of the things that I learned here in Mexico was about the relationship, and it helped me see how people in Austin really do like relationships. People in Silicon Valley, at least in my experience, sorry to our watchers that are actually here from Silicon Valley, I hated it. And the reason I hated it is people didn't really give a care about who I was. It was really weird. I'm from Texas. I'm used to Texas is the friendship state. The word Texas alone comes from a native Texan word that means friend. And what was odd about that is to have people who are just like, oh, okay, how can I use you? Right.
Yeah.
Or how do you threaten me kind of thing. It's really weird. Mexico helped me see that culture. So tell us more about that sense of community and trust that's here.
Well, I love it here because, especially here in Monterrey, Mexico, we're all like a big family. Everybody is your aunt or your cousin in some weird sort of way. Because, for example, in my case, my mom's friends are my aunts and they are not blood related, right?
Mm.
Or I have friends who have kids and I'll be their aunt and we're not related. But that's like the charm in Monterrey, Mexico. We try to welcome everyone and we want to make them feel part of a very big family. So in business or when we're talking about business, of course we don't start that way, but as time goes by, you start building this relationship where all of a sudden you have compadres or very close friends that were born from some sort of business that you had together some long time ago.
When that's the thing that they're back to this idea of networking, when you're just looking for how can I use you,
Yeah,
vice versa. Transactional, there are reasons that people who do transactions are quote unquote successful, but from a building a community, it kind of very limited on what's possible with that. So part of what we like to really talk about is the human connection underneath that. Like that, there's a set of emotions that tie people together
yeah,
and that has them look. I mean, this is the basis of community. Like, what's the difference between just being a resident versus being a citizen is one of the ways I express this. A resident just lives someplace. A citizen actually is concerned for like the place that he or she lives and takes care of, and is concerned for the neighbor. Right? There's like it's a natural thing.
yeah.
What else comes to mind about that?
Humans in general, we need to feel a part of something bigger. We need to feel that we belong, right? Somewhere. We all have dreams. We are scared of something, you know? So I think that, for example, when we're talking about speedy connections, I usually tell the people at the event, like, forget about the titles. It doesn't matter if he's the president or of I don't know what thing, or he's the mayor of I don't know what town, right? What matters is who is he, who is she as a person? Is she a trustworthy person? Is she a loyal person? How does he treat other people? I think that's what we should be aiming for.
When there's a way of creating that psychological safety and then building upon it, right? The thing about it is, for all the entrepreneurs that are listening to this, part of what I want to push you on is to say, this is the essence. Like, I have what's in my hand right now. This is all I have to build businesses with. Many times we're starting from nothing. We only have maybe an idea or two, but from that moment, we can actually construct this. We can construct that desire to connect and then go from there.
And also, a very important thing, we might not have like the rich uncle, right? You mentioned yesterday. But one thing that we do have and that we need to know how to use in the proper manner, of course, is we have social capital and we need to keep building it. What is that? Is we need to be able to meet new people, to ask questions. What do you do? What do you like? What are your passions? How can I help you? And how can my talents be of service to you? Because this is what's going to help us have a broader social capital, which at the end of the day is what's going to help us build our company or get us out of trouble or whatever, right?
Yeah, wait, exactly. Someone said a couple of days ago here at the conference, intellect is distributed everywhere. Financial capital is kind of got pockets like in Silicon Valley. There are more billionaires per capita than anywhere else in the world. Well, okay, got it. But the truth is, like in Austin, Texas, this idea of social capital, we didn't have financial capital easy to tap into. We built our companies up because 5 minutes of your insight in my business could be worth $10,000 at the right time. Is she going to charge me like for that one little 5 minutes, or can we actually construct a way of finding that? That's what's so essential. And so this idea many times, I'll talk to entrepreneurs and they're like, I'm waiting for an investor and it's going to take at least 6 months, right? The average investment time is a conversation of 6 months, and you might not be able to do anything in that time, but you're talking to hundreds and hundreds of investors, financial investors. We in an afternoon, and that is when we do these events, you can see people immediately walk out of the room and they have some action to immediately be able to take.
That's the magic. One of the main parts of the magic is that people are willing to put themselves out there
Yeah.
and be authentic and be real and be vulnerable sometimes, and are willing to share and to open up, which is something that not necessarily we are always willing to do, right?
Right. So there's this idea that we're really tapping into that we're talking about right now. I want to talk about culture. Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy for lunch. One of the things when you hear that, and you think, wait, there might be something more powerful than strategy, there's an infrastructure of trust and care that you can create just by interacting and building relationships. Now, in my case, like I alluded to earlier, getting out of my own environment of being in Texas and going to Mexico and doing business there, I had to learn how to do that in a different way.
Yeah.
And so then when I came back, it made me stronger for being able to interact back at home. Or when I lived in Chile, same thing. The Chileans, the Mexicans, the Texans, there's different ways that culture is structured.
Yeah.
But the truth is that these ideas about how we build infrastructure, it's fundamental, it's human.
Yeah, and I think one of the greatest values that we can have is, if you have people in your community, you should ask questions and you should be curious. Be sure to ask people about their ways of thinking and of interacting and their culture. And it's amazing how much you can learn from different points of view, right?
Mm.
Like collective intelligence is amazing. I mean, the fact that we have every single one of us has a different way of looking at life enriches the way we get to see our own life. And that also enriches our community, our ecosystem, our entrepreneurship. And I think it's a lot of value when we're connecting strategically with others.
Yeah, especially in entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the purveyors of culture, right? I bring a product out, but the truth is that most products have some ecosystem around it, right?
Yes.
And the ecosystem has some culture around it. You introduce a new product, and by definition, you created a new thing, right?
Yeah.
So being able to do what you just said is exactly it. That is the exactly thing. In simple words, I'm building a culture around my own product and ecosystem, stuff like that. But when I actually really do it between others and I start studying that, especially right now, some of you that are in the tech ranch community can take advantage of this. You can find a pen pal if you want from on some other part of the world. In some ways, it can be really powerful just to find someone virtually. You don't have to go live someplace else. And it can be hard at times, but
Yeah.
it is nice to be able to do that just by asking questions like you're saying.
Yeah, I think part of being a strategic connector is being able to ask a lot of questions, like be curious
Yeah.
and be really into the information that's being given to you. Something that I cherish very much is when I get to meet a person, I feel like they're giving me a gift, because actually they are giving me the opportunity to see the world through their lens.
Mm.
And that is beautiful, because my point of view might be radically different, but still it adds to my intelligence, because now I know there's another way to look at this specific issue, right? So that'll always help you in tons of ways.
Yeah, definitely. I keep on thinking maybe this might be a little bit far fetched or hard to understand, but I practice Aikido. Aikido is a martial art where you harmonize with the person attacking you. And just by the way they attack, you have to learn how to soften yourself to work with the other person. And you never know what you're going to be presented. And part of that, it's actually there's almost like a interesting expression of joy. The thing about it is there's like a way of engaging and seeing the other person not as a competitor, but as a partner to actually learn and get better in yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so what's it what's that opportunity for in global innovation? We were talking about some of that today at the hospital. Share a little bit about your point of view about what happened earlier today.
A lot of things happened earlier today. I think there's tons of opportunity for Mexico and specifically Monterrey and Austin, which I think we are very similar in many ways, and we haven't even realized it. And that's gorgeous, because once we get to see like the other side of the story, we'll understand each other way better.
Yeah, Prime Minister Mark Carney from Canada, he said the trade has ruptured. And because it's ruptured, right, people are scrambling to plug in new things, right? The Texas Mexico relationship is long term, it's durable, it's always going to be there because Texas isn't moving, Mexico's not moving. Yet there's an opportunity for us to play to each other's strengths, right? At the hospital that we were at earlier today, part of what's happening is Brenda and another entrepreneur named Myra are actually leading women's health. There's about to be all this opportunity for focusing in on women's health on both sides of the border. What are some of the couple things you're excited about for that?
Well, I think there's tons of things that are going to be happening now. I think the collaboration part is going to be way better, and the communication should be faster and more open, no? I think.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that, and part of it is we'll be figuring out, and part of it is that for those of you all that are entrepreneurs that are watching this, a lot of times at your earlier stages in a venture's history, you don't have access to these other markets. A lot of times the really large companies have it easy because they got lots of money and they can screw it up and all that sort of stuff. Whereas the smaller companies, the earlier stage companies, need some assistance. And that's part of what we're here to do for them.
Yeah, definitely. And what we want to do is to make it simpler for them, and at the same time, for them to have it like in a shorter amount of time, right?
Right. Yeah. For those of you all that are in other parts of the world, we will be duplicating this model in a number of different locations, but this is where it's really we're taking it to the next level with this interaction.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what do you think is possible for the future in this idea of building trust, building care, starting with Monterey and Austin? Where do you see things going?
Honestly, I think of a huge international party where everybody is sharing information and thoughts, and how do I work here? How do I get into this market? How can I collaborate in this culture? How can I be of service over there at the other side of the world? I mean, this is going to be huge.
And the thing about it is, as I sit here in Monterrey, Mexico, tomorrow I'll be in Austin, Texas. Tomorrow's Friday. Saturday, I leave Austin, and by Sunday, I'll be in Rome, Italy. And part of what I see happening is, we're going to do these pioneering steps so that you can have access to these markets because, we want to support the pioneers, the revolutionaries in the gardens. Those are the words that I use for
Yeah.
talking about a certain set of entrepreneurs that really express care for the world, right?
Yeah, definitely. We want to start a care revolution.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now, by the way, if anyone happens to see this, I think we're not going to publish till after I've left Rome. But if you have a connection to the Pope, I'd like to get a chance to share this with the Pope as well. Because I don't know, I believe that this is really going to be revolutionary. So we're inviting everybody to the table. The main thing about it is, and this isn't just about TechCrunch, this is about a style of thinking. A lot of dark things are happening in the world right now. And this is our opportunity to change, to make a change, to create infrastructure right here, infrastructure based on trust and care.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always light. Where there is darkness, there also needs to be light, right? So we
Exactly.
we are the counterpart,
And
right?
we're here to bring you into it. What we want to do from here is know that this is our invitation for you to get involved in this work. I want to make sure that you get to come to techranch.com. If you see this, make sure you get yourself on our radar. If you go to the contact form that's available at techranch.com, tell us about your venture, tell us about where you're at, tell us about what your concerns are. There's a place for doing that. If you're an ecosystem leader as well and you want to plug into this larger network, we're looking to recruit you as part of that because the historical leaders and politicians of the world and stuff like that, maybe they have some answers. I don't know. But what I do know is entrepreneurs together, we can actually change the world for the better together.
We can, and we want to hear from you, and we want to have some ideas from you too. And be sure to join us.
If you have questions about this or anything we've said, put some notes in the YouTube channel and let us know, and we'll be following up. We'd really like to dig in. Things are really taking off this year. It's been interesting to be a part of this process. You've been doing this for many years. I've been doing this for many years, but I think we both recognize something has changed. So let's go make the world a better place. So let's do it.
Yeah, all right.
All right, we'll see you again soon. Thank you for your time today. Let us
Bye.
know your questions.